What is up, all you beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Brittany. My sister, Jessie Grace Moore, went missing from Wenatchee, Washington on June 20th of 2016 when she was only 23 years old. The day Jessie went missing, a video was taken of her at Centennial Park where her head was shaved. To this day, we do not know if Jessie did this to herself or if someone did this to her. She is dressed in clothes she would not normally wear, as you can see in this picture. Also, none of her belongings are with her, which was out of character for Jessie. After she is seen on camera at the park, she begins walking southbound on Wenatchee Avenue, and it's as if she vanished. She has not accessed her bank account or used her phone since June 20th. Jessie is listed as an endangered missing person, and my family and I believe 100% that Jessie was met with foul play. An official suspect has never been named in her disappearance, but her case remains open to this day. And from now on, I will leave a direct line to the detective working her case down below. Please call him with any tips you may have. Nothing is too small. More videos and information on Jessie's life and disappearance are always linked in the description box if you would like to learn more. But everything I do on this channel is in honor of Jessie and spreading awareness about her disappearance as well as other missing persons cases. If that interests you, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up because it's a free way that you can help the missing out. I love you so much, Jessie Grace, and this is for you. So, I first want to thank you so much for doing this. I was honestly surprised that you agreed to it, not because of who you are or anything like that. I just know that Jessie's case is open, and we weren't sure what we could discuss, what we can talk about freely. And yeah, I want to thank you for being here.
Sure.
I appreciate it. My family and I appreciate it. I think I can speak for them. And before we get into the questions, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, your career a little bit and as a detective?
Sure. So my name is Steve Evitt. I have been with Wenatchee Police Department for just over 20 years. My background is actually, I have a bachelor's degree in theology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I came to Wenatchee, I was hired by Calvary Bible Church as a youth pastor. And I did that for a year, and after that year, I decided I didn't like being in charge. So, having gone to school and, for theology and expecting that I would probably be in the ministry for most, if not all of my life, then I had to sort of retool, and anyway.
Yeah. So
I did consider going back to school, and ultimately somebody who worked here back in 2000, Doug Jones, said, "Hey, maybe you should look into police work. It's helping people and things that are similarly related to ministry work." And so I applied and went through the whole process. And 3 weeks before I was supposed to go to school to get my teaching certificate, I got a call from Wenatchee PD and said, "Hey, you want a job?" Yeah, I'd rather start working than go to school for the next 2 years. So anyway, with Wenatchee Police Department, I worked patrol. I was for almost 3 years the traffic officer, which we don't have a traffic position currently. We've had it a couple different times within my 20 years where all I did was traffic stops and investigated collisions and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Back in 2008 to 2012, I was the school resource officer and investigated safety, different things within the school district for all of the schools, grade schools, junior high and high school. And then in 2013, maybe late 2012, I'm not entirely sure, I had actually requested to be the fraud detective.
Oh.
And the reason I requested that, or we call it putting in for, or letting your interest be known that you want this position. Well, the reason I did that is because that was the only position open at the time. But we also only had 3 detectives at the time, because we were from 2008 we had lost several people by attrition and some retirements, and so we were down a lot of people from our normal numbers of officers. And so when I put in, and I was given yep, you're going to go ahead and be the fraud detective. But then they didn't fill that position. The chief, we just didn't have enough people. I had to stay on patrol. So then in 2014, the person crimes position came open, and it was offered. That was offered to me instead of the fraud position. And I be honest with you, Brittany, I am so thankful. Our current fraud detective is really, really good, and his natural way of thinking is very linear, very sequential, and I have none of that.
You have a deep humanitarian part of you.
Which I mean, I was concerned about, because the person crimes position here at our department. So we have 4 detectives: person crimes, fraud, property crimes, and then a general. So that general position could get some of mine, could get some fraud, could get. I mean, just it's sort of a if we're all busy, then that person gets some of the overflow.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so, not knowing anything about the person crimes other than it's typically, I investigate child abuse, which is physical violence, child sex abuse, and anything adults related to sex offenses. That's the most, and then on occasion, missing persons or other domestic violence related person crimes. So I get some of those too. But mostly it really is sex crimes.
And that's what
the way our department does it. This is not across the board. Every police agency does it this way.
So Jessie's case doesn't necessarily fall right under the sex crimes. It's just the missing person.
I would say categorically correct.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. It would make the most sense for Jessie's case to come under the person crimes detective for our agency, but not absolute. I mean, obviously I didn't, because I was in our detective's office at the time that she went missing, and I did not get assigned to this case at that time.
Got it.
And honestly, I can't speak to his why. I don't know why.
Yeah.
There was not a discussion about it. It was just simply, okay, you get it. And
this is you. Yeah.
It was then Detective Ward. Getting in this position, that this position really does fit my personality much better than the fraud. So I feel like I've been very blessed to be able to interact with people and be a part of the process of most things that are really difficult for people to. I mean, sex crimes is can't imagine it. It's it's awful, right?
Yeah.
But I appreciate that I can interact with people on a personal level and hopefully give them some maybe calm or just understanding or something that helps them in a very extremely difficult time.
Yeah. That's awesome. And God has a plan for all of us, and you never know what it's going to be when you start out.
Very true.
If you just take those chances and you're like, all right, let's do it.
Very true. Yep.
So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
And let's get into some of these questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question being, have you checked and shared flyers with the local homeless shelters in the surrounding towns / nearest big cities or in the vicinity of Wenatchee?
So that was to a degree, I can't speak to specifically where.
Yeah.
But to a degree, when Jessie first went missing, I can tell you, I was assigned to continue with the investigation back in November of 2019. Mm-hmm. So, I can tell you, I have not in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And so, but I can say back at that time, yes, there was information sent out to. I cannot specifically speak to which cities, where, but because we were getting information, we were sending out information as well to those
the shelters,
to those
and
shelters
all of that,
and things.
And just seeing,
Correct.
Yeah, totally. All right. So, have you been able to produce a timeline for the previous week of her movements?
Yes. I mean, it's limited to. For the most part, actually, it's not limited just to law enforcement contacts. Whenever a patrol officer is assigned to a call, there's a log of it, person's name, who was contacted, who called the complaint, where something where it happened. So yeah, there's a definite timeline as to what Jessie was doing, where she was at within the week before she went missing. There is some fairly decent. I can't share specifics as to where she was, but and then there's a couple of people that have added, that have been talked to, that have added a little bit of, that the call log doesn't show. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a complete timeline, but there's a timeline.
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to explain on my channel before with, leading up to her disappearance. Jessie was very sporadic with her movements and went to a lot of different places. And, she was in Chelan one day and called the 911 on herself, was taken in an ambulance. So you're saying based off of those kind of calls,
that's one of the things that we have utilized to put together a timeline, is like what you said, her calling 911. Yeah, that would be the Rivercom would put in who called, where they were calling from, what number they were calling from, and or if they were able to. Sometimes people don't give information, which no big deal.
Yeah.
But sometimes and so if she would have given a current address, or those types of questions are all asked by the dispatcher, and so they gather as much as that person is willing to give them.
Yeah. And as far as phone records, because you can ping where their cell phone hit, right? And the general location.
Yeah. And every carrier is different. Yeah. Some carriers are super specific. Their technological capability is really good, and you can pinpoint probably within 5 meters. Some are really poor, and it's more like 100 to 200 meters. It's just the carrier determines how close we can hone in onto a signal of any type of device.
Yeah, and just a little side note, I feel like from media and TV shows and movies, our idea as viewers how an investigation takes place is very construed. We think it's just going to be kind of this blueprint of someone's movements, but as an investigator, you have to get in there and try to figure out exactly where they were, because any little clue could be the thing that, could break the case.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, and I think, when you look at a television show, I think the theory behind many of the things that you see is true, but the ability, like I said, you watch any crime show and like you said, you can ping, they always, whenever they ping somebody's phone, they always know right where that phone is.
They get the call and
it's like it's right there. But again, it's really dependent upon the carrier, regardless of the technology that we have. If the carrier, the phone company, doesn't have the good technology, we can only get what they give us. So
go off of that.
The theory is mostly with those crime shows are sound, but the practice is sometimes lacking depending upon a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is a great question to whoever submitted this, and it was something I had actually never thought of, which is crazy, and that's why it's awesome to get collaborative ideas on stuff. Sure. So, was Jessie's hair cut, and was she wearing those clothes when in contact with the Catholic family counselor?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the only thing I can confirm is that when the video was posted, that's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Is her hair was shaved by that time. And so...
Do you know what time that video was taken? On the June 20th?
I don't have any documentation that shows specifically when it was taken.
What time? Yeah. That would be important to know. I wish I had that information. So one question someone had is which kind of is in the same vein as the first question. Have you looked into homeless shelters, areas, and camps thoroughly?
And I would say, me personally, no. But especially when first reported, and then we were knowing what we were looking for, i.e. shaved head and those types of things. Our patrol shifts, Chelan County Sheriff's Office, Douglas County Sheriff. I mean, everybody knew that we were looking for Jessie.
Yeah.
So, and it is, I don't know if you knew, but it is a very common occurrence for patrol shifts for, days, nights, to be called to the shelters, homeless encampments that we have locally. So if Jessie had been in any of those locations, known shelters like you're referring to, even if the call wasn't about her, she would have been seen.
Yeah. So, and I believe that.
So as far as flyers, no, I don't think we specifically, but the information was out there with all of the agencies that she was missing, and if she was found, to give us a call, and then like I said, patrol shifts are always going to places where and it's not just homeless shelters, it's places where the homeless congregate,
are known,
generally speaking,
known to be,
i.e. the different parks.
Yeah.
Locomotive Park is one of those.
Yeah.
And so we get called there daily.
Yeah.
And so, if she would have been seen by somebody on patrol.
Yeah, and she had all the very distinguishable characteristics.
Yeah.
The head shaved with the markings or whatever.
Right. And she was very vocal.
Vocal.
I mean, just her personality. She was very vocal.
Yeah, you kind of
Yep.
know her voice a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah. So is a local law enforcement willing to re-interview those 4 people who were with Jessie at the park? So I think they're speaking about Centennial Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I would have absolutely no problem interviewing anybody, a second, third, fourth. I mean, there have been a lot of interviews that have already been done. But to be perfectly honest with you, not everybody wants to be interviewed.
Yeah.
That has been the biggest struggle, is just getting.
Because they can just say no.
They can say no.
They can just say no. I don't want to do that.
I mean, I'm a decent talker. I can convince people a fair amount of time, not always.
Yeah.
But I can convince people just to have a conversation with me, and Jessie, Jessie's case is definitely one of those where some people, not everybody, but some people are keeping me at arm's length.
Yeah. And is there confirmed there was 4 people that are in the surrounding, when that video was taken? Because I don't have an exact number.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm trying to envision, having seen the video, I'm trying to envision 4, and I can only think of 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I wasn't quite sure on how many people were there, and yeah, it could just be those people were there and no one felt the courage to stand up for her in that situation, and that could be as far as it went. And then they see her walking southbound on Wenatchee, and that was it.
And that was it. Yep.
And it was like, literally, the way I think about it is she was sand, just slipped through everyone's fingers. She was right there. And how many times does someone go missing and a video is taken of them? Pretty sure that's the day she went missing, a video where she, it's
within a very short period of time.
Within a very short period of time.
Yep.
It just adds so much to the element
Yeah.
of her disappearance, the suspicion around it and stuff. Okay, so the next question, do you have certain about where the video? So the next question, do you know for certain or have ideas about where the video that supposedly shows Jessie's death originates from? Do they believe the description in the video itself is legitimate? So, sorry, just to clarify, we're talking about a different video that people have claimed to see of Jessie being murdered.
Okay. So, would you mind asking that question again?
Yeah, I know it's confusing. I thought that when I said it. Do you know for certain or have any ideas about where the video that supposedly shows Jessie's death originates from? Do you believe that the description of what the video shows is legitimate?
I'm just going to be brutally honest. I have my doubts that video exists.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard when everyone has different accounts of what they've seen. It's really hard to be like, well, who's telling the truth? And with us, because people message us all the time, and it's like, people almost want to infiltrate themselves into the case and say that maybe they've heard that someone else saw this video and they're like, you know what, yeah, I saw this video too. And so it just becomes a game of telephone, essentially, where everyone has seen different things and none of it is positive. It's not like she's, skipping through a meadow or anything. And so I'm kind of under the same impression as well. I don't think if it were, like you said, if it were out there, it's long gone by now. Yeah. So, all right. Moving on. Do you have persons of interest in Jessie's disappearance, and have they been located and interviewed?
As I think about that the term person of interest is really so fluid, in a case where, I have three ring binders of information, just paper. This is not even electronic, of names and locations and different details about what people have said and where she was last seen and all of that stuff. And with so many names, person of interest, maybe that more accurately should be person who knows something about what happened.
And you got a hunch, like a feeling that they know something more, but they're just not telling for whatever reason.
So that, person of interest and person who knows something, those two are so fluid. And so there have been so many people that have been interviewed, and many of those people, whether you want to call them persons of interest or persons who know something about what happened, have been interviewed multiple times.
Yeah.
And so, doesn't mean that there isn't a third, or like I said, a third or fourth or fifth. But I think the question was, have they been interviewed? And I would say, yeah. I would say probably all, if not most. Again, some people don't want to talk to the police. So, you have to add that little caveat in there. It's not, I feel like, just because I can identify someone I need to talk to doesn't mean that they're going to be willing to talk to me.
Yeah.
And so to say, has everybody been interviewed? Yeah, probably. But I can also caveat that and say, probably not. But I would say it's not because for lack of trying.
Yeah. And your hands are kind of tied your hands are tied in a lot of situations, so that makes it difficult. Okay. So someone asked, I would like to know how he feels about him ever finding the truth on what happened to Jessie. An example, does he think it will happen, and does he think Jessie will ever be found?
All I can say is I am hopeful. And because I am hopeful, I just try to work on it as I can and continue to look.
Yeah.
And to keep my mind open. Just not key on any one person, one thing, one time, one whatever. Just trying to stay open, and because I guess you could say from a fatalistic standpoint, the answers are out there.
Yeah.
Am I hopeful? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am hopeful.
Yeah. I would be the worst detective because I act on emotions, and it would just be like...
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't have any emotions.
No, I'm not saying you don't have emotions at all. I'm just saying, I would just... and especially when Jessie first went missing and people would message us, we would all get riled up.
Right.
This is it. This is it. Why would someone lie about this? Why would they give all this detail?
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so now it's, as we're approaching 5 years in June, it's just like...
Right.
That's a long time. Her son just turned 10, so he was 5 when she went missing.
Right.
And his, it's such an unfair situation, but his memory of her, it's fading, and it's just those, he's 10, she's been missing for 5 years. You can never lose hope, though.
No, not
ever.
at all. No, not at all.
Ever. Because you see so many cases years later,
Mm-hmm.
they get solved. It's that one piece of
Right.
information, and I think if you go into it, like you, level-headed, take it one piece at a time. Don't get like, this is going to solve the case,
Right.
but you take one piece of information and just, and hope that that's what we need.
Right.
And doing stuff like this, you pray that it helps in
Right.
any way to refresh someone's memory or to
Right.
just jog it a little. So yeah.
Yeah. But you also have information, even if it's something that eliminates a possibility,
That's information.
that still gets you farther than you were, before that, and might point you in that direction, like you're saying, that one piece of something,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether that's evidence or person or something else.
And this one's not on here, but I think you can
Okay.
just answer it freely. So when
You
when
think?
I think so when a case is being investigated, is there a time limit to when it goes cold? Like, is that 10 years or it depends?
There's no strict definition for cold case.
I guess I was just curious about that.
Yeah. No, I've never seen anything. There's no RCW. There's no, an investigation officially becomes a cold case when this happens.
Okay. Yeah, like a time limit.
There's nothing that definitive about it. No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is a great question. So, from law enforcement side, does he have any recommendations or advice for others who may be missing a loved one?
Stay hopeful, first of all, but also it's sort of like, officers, detectives, if, we do an investigation, sorry, this is going to be a long way around.
No, you're fine.
We're investigating something and we finally get to the point where we think this is the person, we have probable cause for, and we take that probable cause and we give it to our buddy and say, hey, would you look at that with a different set of eyes and make sure? So in thinking in those terms for people that have missing loved ones, go look at things again.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
You can't speak for every case.
Go look at things, writings, social medias. I mean, who knows? But look at it again and give it to somebody else. Give it a second set of eyes. Maybe we missed something. Maybe something that wasn't important. 2 days ago, 2 months ago, 10 years ago. I mean, maybe something wasn't important that maybe it could be now, and then present that to give that to the law enforcement agency, and who knows?
You never know. That's so true. There's so many, especially like with Jessie's case, she left so much paper trails that you can almost become too obsessed.
Sure.
And she was
can be difficult. Yeah, no.
She was also
right.
abusing drugs. So for example, she would post things like, "The king is coming."
Sure.
And so for us, my mom's like, what? Cracking the code when it could have just been willy-nilly her
right.
Writing something, and then she had mental health issues on top of it, and most definitely, and thank you for all of you who give me ideas that I had never even thought of. It really is amazing if like a community of people that come together and they really want to see something solved.
Sure.
So it's awesome.
Yep.
And so that segues us into
and for example, we, Wenatchee Police Department, we're 43 people.
Wow.
And Wenatchee is 34,000 plus. Is
that a lot or a little bit?
Logically speaking, are 43 people going to be able to solve every crime that happens in a town of 34,000 people? Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. We need help.
Exactly. And that's cool that you're collaborative in that sense.
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're not, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I feel like your ego is not like, this is mine. It's like people give you ideas and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll kind of stew that a little bit. And it's been nice to just message you any things I get sent because I'm past that point of not getting my hopes up. But, when people message me stuff, I'm just like, I'm happy I can just send it to you, and I have confidence that you're going to look into whatever, and I can kind of take the load off.
Sure.
And work on the other side of things.
Yeah, and frankly, Brittany, I am happy to be that resource.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate that. So that segues us into the next question.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do as a true crime community to help find missing persons?
Probably the most useful thing is just to continue to use social media. Even if that's something as non-evidentiary, if you will, as a flyer, a memory, because we can. I mean, obviously, anybody would have to get permission from the agency, which again, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but again, you never know what some posting of something, a photograph of I don't know, who knows what it could be, but a reposting of something could jog somebody's memory. I mean, not just jog, not even, actually more importantly than jogging a memory is jogging jogging a heartstring, if you will.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I know, I mean, it has to be true with all of the people that we have talked to related specifically to Jessie's disappearance. There are people that have lied to us.
Yeah. Go figure.
Well,
no
why?
way.
So, maybe over time, I mean, things have changed in those people's lives as well, right?
Change of heart.
So maybe something's different. But unless, by utilizing social media and or other things, just getting that, keeping that, in this case specifically, keeping Jessie's memory out there, alive, active, however you want to phrase that, might at some point, maybe not today, perhaps next week.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I mean, who knows?
I think it's the easiest thing you can do. You just hit share, and then it's out there, and you don't know if you've got, everyone has however many Facebook friends. It could be that one person that's like comes forward, and and thank you to all of you who have shared any information on Jessie. It blows my mind how many of you message me and say, "Is it okay if I share her flyer on this and this and this?" And I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. Share her flyer every place that you want to.
Right.
We don't care.
Yeah.
I do every speaking event I can for Jessie. I go on anything to speak about her case, and yes, we are completely open to it. It cannot hurt anything. Mm-mm. So the next question. When was the last sighting of Jessie? Any recent ones, or are they all from around the time she went missing?
I'm not really going to speak on the last one, but since then, even since the day she was reported missing, I mean, we've had every single potential sighting, tip has been investigated, been looked at as much as possible. I mean, circumstances could dictate. I'm thinking of a specific one that came in last year. Mm-hmm. It was actually someone after Sherry went on the Dr. Phil show.
I know it. Yeah,
we
talked about that.
There were a couple of sightings, which it filtered its way up to Wenatchee from different parts of the country. But I mean, sure, give me the information. And you guys would have gotten a call had I found Jessie, but they were, so yeah, any type of tip like that of a possible sighting in particular, we very actively, as quickly as we can, try to locate who said what they see, where they see, and try to figure out. So, yeah, all of those have been. Yeah,
it's hard. There's never since around the time she went missing, there hasn't been a confirmed sighting of her. That would be
nothing confirmed.
If it was confirmed, we would be over the moon. You
would know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, is there any actual followable leads as to her head being shaved and everything? Have you found out what the 13 lines and possible letters mean? I can read that again. Let's first start off by saying you don't really think there's too much to it.
Let's just say I've talked to a handful of people that might have some knowledge of the whys.
Oh.
And I don't think there's too much to read into that.
Okay. Well, you can understand for us as a family,
Yeah.
we're like, what the heck does this mean?
Right.
And we're looking for, any clue. And so that's been a big, area of speculation is the head, because I see stuff and that's a personal thing, but,
Yeah.
but like, we've discussed, did she do it to herself? Because I don't say it lightly. Jessie was really on the fringes of insanity at the time that she went missing,
Right.
and she was using on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
She was under extreme mental stress. I don't know if I should say psychosis or anything like that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's so incredibly frustrating that we don't know
Right.
what was leading up, what happened to her. I mean, the entire thing, it could just make you so mad at the world.
Yes. It could.
So this is a good question. So how difficult has it been to investigate Jessie's case?
It has been as far removed as once I started investigating. It's been very difficult.
Yeah.
Many, every piece of information that we have been provided over the course of nearly 5 years now, some of that I believe has been misinformation.
Yeah.
Intentionally, things said intentionally to send us on a different direction. Well, now almost 5 years later, there's, you have this whole big bucket full of truth, half truth, and not truth.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of so.
And then on top of it, all of her movements and where she had been and all of that.
Yeah.
And how many people she had come in contact with. I know she had been.
Yeah.
She was always somewhere. She was
Yeah.
popping around. And
Right.
so
Right.
it's really hard. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So no, it's extremely difficult with all of the information out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And any case that isn't solved is difficult.
Right.
It's
Right.
like,
But over as time goes by, it becomes more difficult unless there is very specific physical evidence that you can point to.
yeah.
Anything that has to do with people saying they saw something, heard something, did something. That's all over time. That's going to get more difficult.
More murky, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is a game of
More murky.
telephone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of my questions, or these last two are from me. So
Okay.
Is sex trafficking a problem in Wenatchee?
I mean, the quick answer is yeah. Is it any? I don't think it's any more or less than any other town our size, larger city. I mean, it is a problem, regardless.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very difficult to quantify. Is it more of a problem here than somewhere else?
Yeah. And it's what's the definition?
It is
so
what
the
it is.
definition is someone being exploited
Right.
for cash, drugs, whatever in
Right.
return.
Mhm.
So it's very I think a lot of people's idea of trafficking is a group of people maybe tied up in a basement or something. I can't say too
Right.
much because it's YouTube. I'll get demonetized. I probably already got demonetized. But, it's just when you get to that basic, granular level.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yep.
Granular level.
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
Let's go with that.
Then it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's organized. It's individual. It's
a good way to put it.
yeah. I mean, but is it prevalent here? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As it is everywhere.
As it is everywhere.
As it is everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is something you and I had talked about, and I have talked about it in other videos, but I think it's so important. How long does it take for an investigation to be launched when an adult goes missing and there is no sign of foul play?
How would you define investigation?
Yeah. Yeah, because you could just kind of look into it. So say...
I mean... Sorry, it's actually a very personal question for me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Well, I know we had talked about it, and I just wanted... the reason, I guess I'll share my reasoning for wanting to ask you this, is a lot of people... a lot of the cases I look at, there's no sign of foul play, and it takes law enforcement a while to take it seriously, and look into it if there was no, hard-hitting evidence that something had happened. And I think it's, and I'm sorry, it just kind of goes with...
So the letter, let me just start with the letter of the law. Only because, truthfully, from a legal standpoint, that's where we have to start. And I believe this is probably true. I think this is probably a federal standard, but I'm only going to speak to Washington State because that's the only... Actually, I can speak to Oregon State as well because I've looked. If you will, an official investigation is defined by law as beginning at 30 days.
30 days. Yeah.
But that being said, it doesn't mean that when somebody calls in and says, okay, and I'm intentionally not going to bring in any factors that would be suspicious. So, my adult child, my adult sister, my adult fill in the blank partner.
Adult, yeah.
My adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, adult is not the same as children. Yes, very, very clear. Children are immediate.
Yes, as they should be.
As they should be. So, this is my adult my adult person's routine. Here. They've deviated from that routine. We as law enforcement have to say, do you absolutely know that there is something wrong? And as a family member, I get wanting to say, well, yeah, I know something's wrong because I know.
But there's no...
As much as I would love to say, all right, I agree with you. We're gonna send all of our resources out and go do this. We just can't do that.
Yeah.
But also hear me say that every call for a missing person is unique. And our job is to ask the right questions and to be on the foundation apologetic about it. Some of our questions sound like doubt.
Yeah, pushback.
I promise you, they really are not doubt. Okay, I can't speak to every...
You can't speak for everyone.
I can't speak to every single law enforcement person in the world, but from the standpoint of how an agency would respond, no, we're not trying to come up with a reason not to investigate.
Yeah.
We're trying to make sure that we're within because, every adult, whether they have physical problems that affect them on a very on a daily significant basis, whether it's mental health problems, whatever it is, they still have the constitutional right to do what they want to do as an adult.
Yeah.
Even if it is unsafe for them.
Yeah.
If it's intentionally unsafe, if we can show maybe there's an intent to harm themselves, okay, maybe we can step into that as law enforcement. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
but we have to ask so many questions to see if we can, because we're asking those. I know for a fact that I'm asking those questions because I want to help.
Yeah.
I want to be able to get a resource if I can figure it. But I'm also not going to say, Brittany, is your adult person suicidal? Yeah, I'm offering you that question, so you're thinking, well, if that's the only way he's going to help me, then yes, they are. I can't do that. So I'm going to ask the question in a way that it's your answer.
Yeah.
It's not me suggesting something.
Oh, that'd be
hard. You see what I'm saying?
That'd be difficult.
It can be. So, but I mean, we are looking for, we're not trying to find a way not to investigate something. We're looking for that piece because we know that, an adult has the right to leave their job without telling anybody. They have the right to leave their home without telling anybody, even if they have kids and they have partners. And people have the right to do that kind of stuff, regardless of a known health condition or mental health issue.
Yeah.
They still have that right.
But do you think it would be fair to say, just as a family member to someone, if you're in that situation, just go with your intuition?
But go with your intuition,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am in no way, shape, or form trying to discourage anyone from calling. I'm trying to inform and say this is the reason why we're asking those difficult questions, and some of those questions might sound to some people like we're not taking them seriously, or that we're lazy, we're not really willing to, fill in the blank. Now, obviously, again, I cannot speak to every single police officer in the entire world. So some people, we're humans.
Yeah.
Police officers are humans. So, some people may not want to take it seriously. But as a law enforcement duty, we all have that duty of we want to help people.
I think it just...
in these situations.
Yeah.
So.
I think a lot of, I really do read so much about these cases, and I think for when a family member goes to report them missing, and maybe their loved one is a drug addict, mental health illness, Native American women, someone suggests something. They're probably on a bender. They'll be back, and they say something that's completely offensive. And I see that time and time again when they suggest something.
That's totally
They're probably
understandable.
just getting high.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No, that is something that in general in law enforcement we certainly can do better at.
Yeah.
Considering that regardless of what we know we can or cannot do.
Yeah.
Regardless of what questions we have to ask before we can do some specific things related to missing persons in particular. Not everybody thinks of you specifically. You call in Brittany and thinks of you as a person. Not every law enforcement person does that. On a whole, we do.
Yeah.
But we would be helping the citizens if we were more in tune to what we're saying to people.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally agree with you.
So that is it for all of the questions. I want to thank you so much for joining me today and being open to this. It was awesome to have this conversation with you, and I know you can't say too much because it is an open investigation, but thank you.
Yeah.
And you guys, all the information on all the numbers to contact him, contact anyone on any information you have about Jessie's disappearance is always linked in the description box. So please do not hesitate. It could be the smallest thing, but it could be important. So thank you so much for being here today, you guys, and I will see you on the next one, okay?
Thank you.